order. We have some special guests in the room tonight, some students from our local high school. Stand up and let us say, welcome you to a public meeting. They're doing this for an assignment, so they're gonna get credit for it, unlike the rest of us. So we'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with a roll call for Linda will take a seat.
Chairman Bogle,
You can call me Ron.
Ron,
Here.
Jean,
Present.
Sally,
Present.
Kathy. Here. Peter,
Present.
Veronica. Yes.
And we are present at quorum. We're gonna now deal with approving the minutes from the December 9th meeting. I'll start by asking if there are any changes or corrections in the minutes as they were distributed. Hearing none and without objection, the minutes are approved for December 9th, 2025. This is an unusual meeting because things have kind of come together pretty quickly. I was sworn in Monday and then I left town for a week. And I didn't have any idea. I discovered Linda when I got back, which was a great relief because she knows things. And so that was a big help. But it's intentionally not a business meeting because of the late appointments and sort of need to go ahead and get things underway. So this is a kind of a hybrid, well, literally hybrid, but organizational meeting. Mostly a chance for us to sit together, get a little bit acquainted. I'm going to take a little chairman's privilege and talk a little bit about some of my hopes are for the board. But tonight, there's a little bit of business in the other business category down at the bottom of the agenda. Linda has some invoices that have been posted that we need to approve. Other board members may have some additional business that they want to bring to our attention without objection, even though we don't have citizen comments. Happy to hear any response from students or citizens that they would like to speak during the other business part of the meeting. So that's kind of the nature of this meeting. And in the future, of course, we'll be back in the business of hearing applicants and reviewing applications, et cetera. I would like to just share some thoughts that I've had over the last couple of days about, why I'm doing this and what I hope we can achieve together as a board. And I'm going to rely on my notes a little bit more than I probably had planned because frankly, I'm pretty nervous about this first meeting. So don't be too mean on me. I guess I'd like to just articulate some of the expectations about our work together and what I hope we can see as our vision and our objectives as a board. I think this board will be at its best when members bring independent thinking, informed opinions, and a willingness to do their homework in preparation for our monthly meetings. It's entirely appropriate for board members to conduct independent research, to reach their own conclusions, and risk asking hard questions and holding different points of view. That's what makes a dynamic debate, a dynamic and interesting and self-informing board, if we can bring challenges to each other and ideas to each other. At the same time, we need to run a meeting that is orderly and professional in manner. So we'll have clear procedures. I don't propose that we become overly structured with rules and laws, but I do think it's helpful to have some basic structure in place to help support a good debate, but one that is meaningful and moves us forward in a clear and independent way. There is no official or artificial time limit on board members' comments, while there is, as we'll talk about later, on citizens' comments. But I think our responsibility is to be thorough, but also to be disciplined and respectful of each other's time. It seems like so often our planning conversations default to someone being a loser and someone being a winner. And that is probably maybe typical in all of our experience, but I think there's a third way. And the third way maybe takes a little bit more imagination. We can be an attractive destination for visitors and at the same time address affordable housing. We can support legacy industries in our community and at the same time create a welcoming environment for new businesses. So we can do more than one thing, and that's pick winners and pick losers. Sometimes we have to be creative and find, and my notes are out of order at this point. I'm just going to say, isn't it a lovely day today? The weather's maybe even early spring. Do you think, is it too early to be thinking early?
I vote for that.
I apologize for this. I think I left it on the printer.
Is it on the back of the page?
Is it there? Oh, it's on the front and back. We bought a new printer. I didn't know we did that. So I'll continue with that thought of the idea that we can be creative and not just say one team wins, one team loses. We can protect neighborhood character and at the same time allow thoughtful, well-designed growth. So good planning sometimes does require choosing sides, but it can also be about seeking alternative solutions, forging thoughtful compromise, and always thinking about how we advance the long-term well-being of our city. I also see the planning board as more than a body that simply reacts to applications that come across our desk. When appropriate, we should help shape a shared vision in our community. We should understand and support the implementation of the new comprehensive plan, coordinate with other boards and commissions, including the Conservation Advisory Council, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Historic Preservation Commission. It seems that so much of our work overlays with theirs that cooperation and collaboration will strengthen our decision-making and our community. We should also be thoughtful about supporting partners in our community. And I'm especially thinking about Bard College as they begin to integrate into the life of our town, and certainly real estate and issues of that nature before the board. We look forward to being a creative partner with this new partner in our town. Ultimately, the reason we're here is pretty straightforward. Our work should be to help build a city that supports better quality of life for the people who live here. That purpose is reflected in Hudson's comprehensive plan, which represents the community's collective vision for how the city should grow, change, and sustain itself over time. Our role as a planning board is to help translate that vision into fair, thoughtful, and well-reasoned decisions. Through our actions and through the physical form and design of the city that results from our actions, we have an opportunity to elevate, enrich, and strengthen daily life for all of our neighbors, friends, and citizens, and support a sense of dignity, belonging, and worth for everyone. If we keep that purpose in mind, the individual decisions that we deal with will seem clearer when we keep the public's better interest in mind. Well, that's just an overview of a kind of hopeful and aspirational comment about our work together. If we only act as a voting board, it's easier. If we only vote things up and down, it's easier. As we engage in trying to find creative alternatives and solutions that might not be naturally a part of our role, then that takes more work. If we start partnering with other agencies, commissions, and boards, that takes more effort. So I think part of what we have to do is ask ourselves to step up to maybe a different kind of obligation than just participating in our monthly meetings, and how we spend our time between those meetings affecting change and creating partnerships and work together with others in the city. So anyway, that's what I wanted to start out with. I hope that is at least interesting. It doesn't sound too much like a ramble, and we'll move on with our introduction. So I just thought it'd be nice to share a little bit about our thoughts individually about why we're on the board and what we're doing here and what we hope to accomplish and what strengths, interests, or passions that we bring to it. And I'll start out. I think this is next on the agenda. Yeah. So I've spent most of my career managing nonprofit organizations that work with cities, most often on issues of transition and change at the intersection of design thinking, public policy, governance, but also with a heavy dose of community engagement and quite often a principal focus on neighborhoods and communities that are underserved and undersupported. And so I bring that kind of belief that cities can change lives, and cities can create solutions that elevate and strengthens every citizen in the community. But it takes intentionality, it takes purpose, and it takes the willingness sometimes to do things maybe a little differently, because the strategies we use may not be working as well. And so maybe we need new strategies, new approaches to addressing old challenges. So I bring that point of view. In terms of what I hope to contribute, at least initially, I just think it's so important to have well-organized meetings that respect the minority as well as the majority, that are professional in nature, and that help the community have trust in the work that we're doing. And so working with you all as a group, that's the one thing that I'll really be focused on. Especially as I kind of get my feet wet and understand how we want to work together and what our culture wants to be as a group working together. So, my introduction. Who wants to go next? I will call on you if you don't want to. Okay, Jane, you're next. You're the senior member of this.
Yeah, I'm a senior, but that doesn't give you any benefits. I'm a lifelong resident of Hudson. Most of you should know, maybe know that. Police officer for 32 years. I've been on the planning board maybe, I think 3 different times over a span of 10 years. I'm very much interested in Hudson. As the chairman had said, we need to work together. We need to work together as a unit here. In the past, there have been some slight problems. We need to overlook that and become professionals as we should be. My outlook on the city is, being a lifelong resident, I've seen the good, the bad, and the indifferent. As a police officer, it was the same way. But today, I'd like to go along with affordable housing, and everybody's talking about affordable housing. We as the planning board, when the applications come in, we can support that. It's a long, hard road for these applicants, because there's so much red tape, but we have to deal with it as a committee. Employment in the city, we as a planning board don't have much to do with that, but we definitely need employment for a younger generation, as this group of 12th graders are here tonight. So with that, I'm looking forward to working with the new committee, the old committee, and let's move forward.
Thanks, Jane. Elaine?
I'm actually feeling my bro.
Okay.
You know, that's fine. I don't know, parents, people that probably call me George or something. Anyway, that's an aside. Well, I'm not a lifelong resident of Hudson. I initially moved here 26 years ago, 2000, and then I moved away to, for undergrad and graduate school. I do have experience in the government and the nonprofit sector, like the nonprofit sector, as well as the medical and the allied health fields. So I've kind of have like an interesting, career through the path. But just so that I don't ramble. So my interest in the planning board is just to, work with the new board as it's constituted, and also some of my other returning colleagues. And just to try to do what's best for the city of Hudson within, of course, within, the regulations and our mandate. And so I definitely look forward to working with everybody.
Gabby, Gabrielle, as I go by here in the official capacity, Hoffman, and I guess I started coming to Hudson in the 90s when I was a student at Bard, or before that, actually, when my sister was a student at Bard. And then we moved here when we had our first kid, maybe 12 years ago, and have left and come back. But to see how the city changed over the course of those 25, 30 plus years, And to realize that the civilians, I have zero experience that warrants me to sit here, could participate in how the city was changing and evolving. I'm from New York City and, I've been pushed out of every neighborhood I've ever lived in, over the course of my life and felt totally powerless in what was happening there. So to land back in Hudson after living and leaving with my family, I have 2 kids. And I went to a planning board meeting upon coming back, and I was just asking questions afterward. How does it work? Who are these people? What is the planning board? And to realize that it was just us residents with maybe no experience, helping to shape what the city was becoming in a real way, was just sort of mind blowing to me. I'm still not sure how I feel about it, honestly. But I think it's kind of incredible. And I think that to have seen how much Hudson has changed, not just in the last 30 years, but even in the last 8 since I last lived here, is just inspiring. Not because I love all the changes, but because things can change so dramatically, so quickly. And I think we have an opportunity to turn this city into everything it could possibly be. And I really think that, actually. And take care of its residents first and foremost, and use the things that we might not love about the city to help support the lives of the residents and make sure that we all are leading dynamic, fulfilling, beautiful, surprising, supported, nourishing lives. And we can use those annoying Saturday tourist tax dollars to do that. And if we can be visionaries, and I think it's kind of amazing that, like, me, who has no business sitting at this table, can be sitting here amongst all of us, challenging each other to dream bigger and bigger about what the city can be. And taking the opportunity to really try to be brave and be bold in what that can be. So.
Peter is the other new appointee for now. Welcome. It's odd for me to be welcoming you because
Oh, no, I appreciate it. No, it's good to be here. So, yeah, my name is Peter Spear, and I'm very happy to be on the planning board. I guess first I would want to thank Mayor Ferris for inviting me to be here and to be on the planning board. I've spent a lot of time, as most of you know, making a lot of noise about how I feel like things could be done differently in order to serve all of us in better and more creative ways. And so I really welcome the opportunity to sit with neighbors and work together through difficult things in order to be helpful, be of use to the city of Hudson. I thought a lot about what I might say. I guess a little bit about me. I moved to Hudson in 2002 from San Francisco. I have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder that I never lived in New York City. I had a store on Warren Street, at 314 Warren Street. I sold antiques with some friends from India. The antiques were from India, my friends were not. And then I built my own business and my business for my work, which is relevant, I think, to the question of what I bring here and even all the noise I've made in the past, is I do market research for organizations. I help organizations understand the experience of their customers so they can make better decisions and they can make more confident decisions that is more helpful. And in my world, I would be a planner. I'm a brand planner. And so there's a way that my skill set and my way of thinking about things lays right on top of urban planning. And so I bring that kind of belief in community engagement and in bringing people together and really putting residents first and the human experience of the city first at the heart of what I want to do here. And I think for the most part, I just want to do my part as a neighbor on the planning board, and I want to I feel like the planning board has been an underutilized body that can be more proactive and advocate for creative solutions that improves everybody's life. And I'm really excited to do my part in that. And I think maybe, yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I'm really grateful already to everybody that you guys have been here for a while. And I appreciate all the things that everybody does to make Hudson a better place.
I'm Veronica Contra. I'm sure everyone knows I've lived here my entire life, whether that was in actual Hudson or Greenport, which many people think are Hudson. My profession is I'm an attorney. Outside of that, I also own a business in Hudson as well. I've always enjoyed advocating for people and for what I believe in. And I think being a local, I felt that I was a conduit, I suppose, as a lot of locals thought things were happening that maybe shouldn't be happening. And I think even newcomers think that things on the border are happening that shouldn't be happening. But as a local, I felt that I could speak to the locals and help them understand that, you know, there are codes that we have to follow. And there's zoning, and as long as the business fits within those means, they are welcome to be here. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. And it becomes a they versus them argument, and not that they are legally allowed to do what they are asking to do. And you know, unless it's something really horrible for the city, you know, we're just here to guide.
I think Linda should introduce herself too, because she's part of our meeting. Oh, no. She's been in this position since 2002. She serves all of the boards, just about, and she knows more than everybody. Sure. And we want to keep Linda on her good side. Thank you. That's easy so far. Thanks for that. Those are great words and great intentions, and I think the word that jumps out at me most is that we're gonna have to be brave, sometimes do the tough stuff. So, but I didn't know you got benefits. I don't get any benefits, except the benefit of being able to see our fingerprints on things that really will matter in our community. And what a gift that is, right? Because what I like about this board and this town, because the scale is observable, it's comprehensive. You can see your community in front of you every day, and your neighbors, and sometimes a little too often. But so I agree with the comments that have been made, and I appreciate the leadership and passion you bring to the position. So one of the things you're supposed to do in an organizational meeting, I'm told, is review some of the basic rules of conduct. And some of this is going to be, you know, plenty familiar, but I want to kind of put a few things in place with the objective of creating a different kind of culture around our meetings. And again, I agree, Jane, that past is past. We get to define our own present. And so here are some of the core meeting procedures that I would like to cover just briefly, and then I'll send these to you. Some of these are very standard, some of them may not be. And again, the objective is to support fairness, clarity, and efficient meetings and a clear public record, which is a part of what we produce once a month as a public record. So motions and seconds, standard stuff. We'll operate with a motion and a second. If you have a motion you want to make, I'll either call for the motion, let's show your hand, and the second doesn't have to be called for. Someone can just speak up if you want to. But that's how we'll get business on the table. I'll restate the motion prior to the vote, just so we're all clear that we all know what we're voting on. And that's going to be the sort of the backbone of our action agenda. it's important that discussions stay within the motion. So if we're talking, about a motion and we're staying within the context of that subject, that's great. If we start veering out to maybe a broader topic, I may want to bring us in a little bit to keep us in the lane that we need to be in. But again, that's not an unusual procedure. The role of the chair, I think my role is to facilitate a balanced and orderly discussion without bias toward a particular outcome. Which is in a way not fair because I'm a member of the board also, but I'm also supposed to facilitate a fair and open and honest discussion. So if I'm guiding the discussion in a particular direction and trying to put my thumb on the scales, that's not fair to the other board members. So my role is kind of twofold. One, I'll facilitate without bias for the most part. I mean, there may be times where I can't control myself, but that would be my intention. But after everyone has had a chance to speak, then I'll speak my opinion. But I want to be sure that everybody feels like they've had an opportunity to express their opinions before I speak. Generally, that will be my operating strategy. Do I have to, yep, it's on the back here too. No, it's on the back. 2, 3, 4. Did I mention that organizational skills are not my long suit? Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Members should wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking. This is not a control method by the way, but it just helps maintain orderly discussion and avoids crosstalk. So if you want to speak, just show me a sign, raise your hand, and I'll call on you. This also supports a clearer and more accurate minutes when we're speaking with one voice rather than over speaking. I think on major votes, we're going to try doing roll call on operational things, on several matters, not so much, but it'll create a clearer record for our actions, and we'll try that for a while and see if we like it. There are some new techniques for voting that we might want to look into that use technology. And I'm happy to explore any ideas you might have in terms of what your preference might be. But I think a simple yay or nay in mass, it doesn't really create the kind of detailed records that we really want to create. Once we close discussion and move to the roll call, then there's no further discussion at that point. So at roll call, you only vote, you don't add additional comments to your vote, or you don't explain your vote. And that, once we've into discussion, that's when discussion is. Public comment is a tricky topic, and it was a tricky issue in some of the earlier meetings that I did attend, and I want us to learn from that. I think public comment is essential to the planning process. But a couple of ground rules that I'll actually spend time on later in the agenda. But the basic ground rule for public comments is that the comment should be directed to the chair, not to the entire, or to the entire board. But no single board member should be have comments directed to them from the public. That's just a simple rule. And then also, public comments need to be related to items on the agenda, rather than topics that might be on previous agendas or possibly future agendas. One of the things I'd like to explore with you all on the applicant presentation. I think it's important that the applicant be able to come and do a coherent, uninterrupted presentation. And we reserve our questions for after they have finished making their pitch. If we start asking questions midway, it may be taking them off their topic, or it may be asking questions that they plan to answer later. So I think as a rule for now, when we're hearing from our applicants, we respectfully listen, and then ask questions after they're completed, unless we're so confused that we're going to lose the meaning of their presentation unless we can clear something up. And let's treat that as exceptions, but but we can do that as well. And those are my comments for general framework, Peter.
I have a comment here asking about if the consultants are to be introduced, as is indicated on the agenda.
Well, Linda and I decided that since this is no business tonight, we didn't need the consultants at the table, so. But we've already met Linda, so we don't need to introduce her again. And everybody knows Lloyd, who's an ex officio member of the.
Oh, thank you.
Thought it would be helpful to do just a general overview of the applications that are before the board at some point in the process. Not for deliberation, but just kind of a high level review. If nothing else, it's a good orientation for Peter and me, but maybe it's also a good review for all of us, just to kind of be reminded what business we're dealing with right now. So as the senior member of our board, I asked Gene if he'd be willing to lead that discussion, and he graciously agreed to do that. So Gene, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Okay, if memory serves me right, and I did research on it in the past couple of days, I think we had 9 different applications before us. One of them is just a recent application that came in. It's Shumat Restaurant, 22 Park Place. Gonna be an eatery, I believe. The application just came in. The application fees have been paid. Online on the Munich Lab is all the information that is requested. We review it. Are you on Munich Lab now?
Right.
You are, and Peter, you on Munich Lab?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Hudson Hotel Annex, 1416 North 4th Street. That project is the Galvin Foundation project on the corner of North 4th and Prison Alley. They're looking to do a project that encompasses the construction of a 14-unit, 6,100 square foot building with off-street parking, access from Prison Alley. There's a issue before the Hudson Planning Board, Hudson Planning Commission, about the area being designated as a historical area. So that's under review. When we get to go through our meetings and discuss it, we'll have more information on that project. John L. Edwards School, that was recently purchased. That's under review. There's a lot of material that is needed and will be requested for that project. That's an ongoing project. Hudson Housing Authority. I think you're here. Yes. Hudson Housing Authority, they're looking to take down the buildings, put up new buildings in through a 3-phase project. Two-phase project, and relocating, taking down some buildings, putting up new buildings, relocating the tenants. They're increasing, I believe, the resident rate as far as the number of people, number of units in all the areas. 8 and 10 Van Winkle Road and 7 Academy Hill Drive. That's a housing project where the condominiums are, I call them condominiums, up on Westman Avenue up by the reservoir. They applied to build some additional units there. That's still under review. And these projects, these major projects, there's a lot of information that is needed and requested by the board. And a lot of times the applicants don't think it's necessary, but we as a board have to be well informed to make proper decision to grant or reject those applications. And that's initially a lot of the big projects. The Foundry, 724, 726 Columbia Street. I believe that's gonna be the theater. That's basically on its end of the application process. There's an issue with the driving and the parking. But that should be pretty close to approving or disproving it. State Street Lofts. That's a project that's by the same developers of the Mill Street projects. And they haven't been before the board in several months. I'm not sure what to do for it. So I can't elaborate on that because I don't have the information. And another one, Little Dips Oasis, 735, 737 Columbia Street. That was the old garage gas station area on Upper Columbia Street. They haven't been before us either in several months. They wanted to make a event center, restaurant, things of that nature. So that's still, it's active, it's not active, but it's still not application that we have to review. I can't think of any more unless the board members prior have any, anything that I missed or projects.
Warren,
Was it?
1012 Warren, it's done.
That was done, yeah. That was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good conditions.
Anything else? That's just the way I have.
Oh. We did, we have the other details good. Missing one?
405 Columbia Street. Right there, and down. I overlooked it. That was that was the Pub of Sinky. And they're looking to do a renovation on it. An interior renovation, adding on to the existing building, expand the business there. There's a whole lot of information here. That's another one with multiple requests from the planning board, which is legitimate. It's just a lot of red tape and a lot of time consumption. But that's another project that we have. It's a proposed bar, restaurant venue. You know, and they're making changes inside and outside in addition. So that's another one. And what's the housing authority? Yeah, that's all I have. Okay, this anything?
Thanks, sir. Any additional comments about projects underway? So in our next meeting, we'll return to the business of reviewing applications and so thanks for that update. So one more comment I'd like to make, and that's about public participation. State of New York requires public participation in public hearings, but it doesn't require public participation in our regular meetings. However, I think we should continue to make that a practice. It's an important part of the planning process to benefit from the public's point of view. I think that we stick with the procedure of limiting comments to 3 minutes. And I know that feels restricted, but it's really to help ensure fairness, that everybody gets to speak, and also to keep our meetings manageable from the length of meeting point of view, which is a high priority. I'm hopeful that our meetings will not average 3 or 4 hours. and perhaps people are like 2 governors. I know, Gene's disappointed, I know, because what else is he gonna do the second Tuesday?
Yeah, what am I gonna tell my wife?
There has been some discussion that public comment should be restricted to only people who live here. Uh, That's logical, it makes sense, that is our public, those are the taxpayers, but the state of New York doesn't permit that. So, any member of the public that wants to speak should be allowed to speak. I'd like to return to a practice of doing pre-meeting signups so that we have a record of who's speaking. And we can ask if they are a resident, property owner, or business owner, or none of the above. So that doesn't prejudice their comments, but it helps us have context about what people are saying and where they're coming from in terms of their perspective. So we'll set that up for our next meeting with the sign-up sheet. Structure of public comments is one matter. The role of public comments is another, and I've written this statement with precision, so I'm going to read it. Public input is not an obstacle to good planning. It is a core part of it. Members of the public bring lived experiences, local knowledge, technical expertise, and information that may not otherwise be part of the record. Our job is not to judge the worthiness of the public and the public input based on perceived motives, but to ensure that all community voices are heard, treated with respect, and appropriately considered. That's my personal value statement about the role of public comments. If you share that perspective, great, and if not, we should talk one-on-one later. So public participation will continue to be an important part of our meeting, and we will provide every opportunity we can to have meaningful platforms for members of the community to participate, speak, and engage with us. Business. So the first bit of business, we're going to vote on payments or invoices. Linda, what information do you have for us? Okay.
Yeah. You got it.
Yes,
Have they posted on,
they're not posted yet.
well, they're not posted.
No, what we have done in the past is I receive the invoices from the consultants, the lawyers, whoever does work for us.
Okay.
And then through the escrow, funds, through the treasurer's office, I decided whether there's money in the escrow to cover the bills or not. So right now, we have and 2 bills, 2 invoices. First one is Rodenhausen Shale and Polidoro. They were the attorneys representing the planning board. And I have an invoice dated December 5th, 2025 for the amount of $5,638.14. Second one I have is Barton Lagunas, Lajuice, dated January 12th, 2026 for $11,057.50. And what we've done in the past was someone makes a motion to pay the bills, second it, and then pay the bills out. And then in the, all the monies on each account is taken out of the escrow for each account. And if there's not enough money in the escrow account for the applicant, then we, as a committee, decide how much to replenish that amount and notify the applicant. If there's no money available, they do not give us the replenishment, then we stop working on the application. Because it's not fair for everybody here to do work, to be working, and they're not paying their way. Okay? So if you do, a motion to pay the bills,
Is there a motion?
It could be my motion or anybody else from the committee.
I invite a motion for payment of invoices as outlined.
Second.
Okay. I think this is a roll call. Go ahead.
Ron?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Jean?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
And getting to the escrow accounts for the bills that are included in here is, 60 South Front Street, Kitties. That's already been approved, the project is closed out, but we did get a bill since then from Barton and Judas, I'm sorry, for $107.50. So what we need to do is notify them that they owe us some money.
And what's the mechanism for doing that? I don't. Okay. Did I need that?
So she normally notifies them, sends them a letter or a telephone call, and, hopefully we get the money. 601 Union Street.
Yeah.
You all right? Okay, 601 Union Street, they've owed us $11.25 for the last year. Okay,
Are we charging interest?
not yet. And then we just got a bill from our attorney for some work that she had to do on their application, which was $26. So right now, they're $37.25 short. They owe us $37.25. Now, this is another one for Linda to notify them. And my feelings in the past that after she notifies them and it's not paid, that we take some kind of legal action against them for collection
For $11?
for $37.25.
Let's discuss that on the time.
And then the other one is $107.50.
So,
But all the other counts are good.
any other reaction we made on this thing? Thanks, Dave. Thanks, board. So I want to ask if there's any other business from board members that they'd like to bring to the meeting tonight. Any other comments that would like to be offered?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
We're being recorded and it's being broadcast live
Yes,
and it's gonna be at every meeting.
yes.
Okay. No, because we had, issues in the past. So, that's okay.
Well, there may be some business that's of the nature that needs to be confidential, may go into an executive session, and that wouldn't be broadcast, but under general procedures, we have decided to join the rest of the city and do live streaming for our meetings.
Okay.
I would offer as a special order, if anybody wants to make comments from the citizens, please identify yourself and, are you a resident or non-resident?
Yeah, my name is Diana. I'm a resident of Hudson. I started the new year with like a lot of energy for like digging down and being, kind of doubling down in my involvement at, coming to city hall meetings. And I really appreciate, being able to sit in on this and like listen to you guys going through all the details and your inspirations and how you're gonna get stuff done this year. I emailed the common council about this, but I realized I didn't email you guys, and I've had some conversation with Margaret about this, which is that one way to facilitate public interaction, and kind of like awareness and knowledgeable input at these meetings is to have better audio and sort of access to like AV in this room. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Margaret was very much like, yes, I agree. We could be doing a better job of like projecting sound in the room. I've been in situations where I'm in the room and I can't hear everything that's being said. People's backs are to me, and I realize I'm not the center, person, but it's like, if I'm here, I've been told at different times to like actually go back and watch the video, and it's like, I was in the room, but I have to go watch the video to find out what I missed. And so I just would like to encourage you guys to kind of like work amongst yourselves, and I'd be happy to like provide any input or help with that. But being able to hear everything in the room, and also I know we're limited in this like footprint of this space. There's a lot of stuff in here, but like it's sometimes it's just hard to know what opinion to have on something when you're hearing, maybe you're hearing it, but you can't actually see the visuals that are being described. So I just wanna, as somebody who's like not in the circle, but who's like trying to participate, it's a bit of a struggle out here, so just wanted to, see what can be done about that.
Thank you for that comment. Any other comments from citizens? High school students, any comments, observations, thoughts, advice? You all want to be planning board members when you grow up? Good.
May I make a comment?
Of course.
Peter Frank, I live in the first ward. Two things. I very much appreciate the aspirational nature of this conversation and the chair's remarks at the beginning about the importance of informed opinions and of doing work between meetings. In that regard, I know that the state requires mandatory training for all planning board members. And my understanding in talking to former members of the planning board is that that was applied rather randomly, and that planning board members didn't always do their annual training. And I'm wondering if in this iteration of the planning board, if every member of the planning board will do that training. I think that it's great to have, consultants, lawyers, and engineers, but to the extent that the actual members of the planning board can have a thorough knowledge of land use law and regulation, I just think it's, to the best interests of everybody in the city. I also understand that individual municipalities can set their own standards for what qualifies, to meet the state mandated requirements and can actually increase them. And I'm wondering what the chair's opinion is on that, on those requirements.
I was sworn in a week ago. There's a lot of things I don't have an opinion on yet, but training does seem to make a lot of sense. And I think it would make for a proper pathway to at least aim ourselves towards some of the lofty objectives we identified tonight.
Thank you. And
I'm just informed that it's required anyway, so I guess the answer is yes.
well, required is one thing, enforced is another. So,
Understood.
Lloyd, may I make
Lloyd
a second comment?
Yeah.
Certainly.
In regarding comments from, residents versus non-residents, I noticed that you mentioned residents, business owners. I also think, people who work in the city are very important. I think the healthcare workers who work at the hospital are important stakeholders, whether or not they own a business or own property in Hudson. So I would think that, that the definition of stakeholders at the planning board needs to be very wide. I also think that we're a very small community. The 2 square miles of Hudson is in a sense artificial. We're in a very intertwined ecosystem with our neighbors, particularly in Greenport. Our economy is very connected to theirs. For instance, there's a proposal now in Greenport for what I think is a very positive housing development off of Healy Boulevard. As a resident of Hudson, that development, impacts Hudson's workforce. It impacts Hudson's economy in major ways. I would like to think that the Greenport Planning Board would welcome my opinion as a Hudson resident to express my opinion about that project. And I think the Hudson Planning Board should equally respect our neighbors in Greenport when projects coming before the Planning Board have a direct impact on their well-being.
Those comments are very helpful. Thank you. Lloyd?
Lloyd Alden Kenning, 3rd Ward resident. Just curious, because I don't seem to recollect what State Street Lofts is. Is that new or where is that located?
4th and State Street.
4th, is that the
Yes.
parking lot?
Parking lot that the county really uses. It used to be school.
That was Milk, okay, yeah, thanks.
Any other comments? Quick ones? Okay, thank you all for being a part of our meeting. Our next meeting is the second Tuesday in February, which is halfway to spring. Thank you very much. At least a third of the way to spring. I'm going to propose, unless there's objection, that we return to a 6 o'clock meeting time. If there is no objection, then we can make that decision tonight. If there's a need to discuss that further, we can wait and make that decision in the next meeting. So I'm not going to ask for a vote, but I would ask if there's an objection to convening at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, February 10th, please let me know. Any objections? Okay, so we'll officially return our meeting time to 6 p.m. starting at the next meeting. And if there's no further business, and we'll adjourn today's meeting. Thank you all so much, and so delighted to be a part of it. Thank you.